All right, welcome everyone to a new format type of video from me, a tier list. Now, this is going to be something that is going to be a very hot debate for most people because I personally love Pokemon. I do. It is one of my favorite franchises, and I'm going to stay on that. But honestly, this is going to be after ZA has came out. So, with that being said, I'm going to mention the new megas. I'm going to mention everything that I can that's so far into it. This is before the DLC. So if they give any more megas or anything on that nature, it could be subjective for me to change my opinions later. But right now, let's jump right into it. And we're going to start off with the original three. Now, we're going to start off with Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur is probably one of the most idealistic choices when you're trying to play through the games that he's in. Let's see. I think if we're going off just red and blue and fire red and leaf green, I would probably pick Bulbasaur for most of the gyms in the game. He's pretty solid, and I like his design. But honestly, I don't think he has as much pull as a couple other starters on the list. But I still give him respect nonetheless. I give him A tier. He's a great Pokemon, great typing when he evolves into Venusaur, and honestly, he's got a Mega and a Gigantamax. So I mean, he's got options. And then now we reach the GOAT Charmander. Now, I know he may not be the most how do I put this? I know he's not the most perfect for his games that he's in, the one that he's a starter for. However, in later games, when you pick him up as a secondary Pokemon, this man takes everything. I mean, he can be great as a physical and a special attacker, and not to mention he's got things to cover his weaknesses like Solar Beam and Sunny Day, which if you get the Y evolution, you can just straight up pop around one with Sunny Day. Well, I'm sorry, not Sunny Day. He has the ability Drought. Pop Drought up, and then just throw a Solar Beam out there first turn, and it was crazy because he was something else. And then Mega Charizard X, obviously you know why. That thing is cool, and it becomes a Dragon type, S tier. Blastoise, or sorry, Squirtle. Squirtle's probably one of the greater options in the Kanto games as well. And I do like having it as a secondary option whenever I want to run a fire type because it has a really decent move pool. And not to mention, Squirtle was really that guy back in the anime. I loved watching Squirtle and the Squirtle Squad. So honestly, might be biased. I'm putting him in S tier with Charmander. I love it. Now, this is going to be difficult for me. Chikorita. I love Chikorita. And with the new Mega Evolution that they ended up getting in Legends ZA, it is now a Fairy type. And it has some new move coverage, and it's not just, it's not just a support mon anymore. It actually has some depth to it. So with that being said, I'm going to throw Chikorita on the A tier. The new Fairy Grass typing is really good. And on top of it, it has decent special attack. And the Mega Evolution don't look half bad. I'm all for it. I know there's certain people that are just going to sit there and ride the Chikorita hate train for the rest of their lives. Sorry, bro. I'm not jumping on that train. Cyndaquil. Alright, I love this little man. Especially from the anime and all the different types of things that he came from. Especially in Legends Arceus. That man had a cold evolution and was really cool. I think it was, Fire Ghost? No, that's cool. With that being said, I'm going to put Cyndaquil in the A tier. Not quite up there with Charmander and Squirtle, but I like him. He's cool. Now, this is a bona fide S tier. Totodile was a goofy Pokemon that gave plenty of people a interest in the anime, and not just from the anime, but also later on, whenever, Feraligatr finally got its Mega. Now, I know people are divided on how the Mega looks and all the toilet seat memes and blah, blah, blah. But I played with Totodile on one of my runs, and this was nuts. This man has great move coverage, and he also has a secondary dragon typing when he Mega evolves. Yeah, this man was goated. So I'm going to put him up in S tier with them. Now, I don't care what any of y'all say. Trico was really him in the anime, this man was really him, and he was honestly in the games. I picked Trico at almost every time. There was like I at least did runs with the other two because I liked them, but I didn't really play with Torchic and Blaziken until like X and Y came out, and I got that like gift Torchic, and then Mudkip in was my starter in Auras because I wanted to play with something different than Trico because I always played Trico when I played the original Gen 3 games. But with that being said, Mega Subtile is really cool, and I enjoy its Mega, especially when it becomes a Grass Dragon type. Yeah, I'm good with it. And Torchic, speaking of, I'm gonna have to put him into. I want to put him S, but man, I didn't really use him that much. And then in the anime, he's really cool, but we don't ever get to see a ton from Blaziken besides May. And then like that one person that forget his name that starts off with a Mega Blaziken whenever Ash reaches the Kalos region. With that being said, I'm gonna put Torchic in the A tier. It started one of the horrible trends of Pokemon, you know, basically starting with a firefighting type. I mean, he's the progenitor of it all, but there's nothing really wrong with it. So we'll move on to the next one, which is Mudkip, and that's an easy S tier. I love this little guy. Not to mention, he carried my Auras playthrough. That was a fun run with him. Not to mention, I mean, he's probably the objectively best starter in his region. Not to mention, he's got a lot of things in his kit that can help out with just about anything. I mean, he has Earthquake, Surf, and let's see, Ice Beam, Blizzard. I mean, I can't think of any more moves off the top of my head, but his Mega Evolution just reinforces the fact that he could be a threat on either the offensive on the offensive of physical and special, depending on which one you want. Now we're jumping into the Sinnoh games. Turtwig. I love this little guy. I loved him from the anime, but because of the fact that he let me down so many times when I was watching the anime, as soon as he evolved into a Torterra on Ash's team, this man caught straight L after L after L. That made me sad because I love Torterra's design. It's a really cool design Pokemon, and it has a lot going for it, being a grass ground type. But if this man even sees an ice type, he just disintegrates on contact. I'm just going to put him B tier. I love him. I love his design, but he's just not good enough to compete with the rest of them. Now, Chimchar. This was my first starter Pokemon. My first game was, if I'm not mistaken, Pokemon Pearl back in the day. Whenever it first came out, I got it, and I started playing through that game like crazy. And Chimchar was my buddy. I went with him everywhere. He was my first level 100 Pokemon, and he was the first Pokemon I really enjoyed as a kid. Because, not to mention, now that I think about it, with the physical special split being in 4th gen, it only reinforced the fact that Infernape was a absolute GOAT. With the firefighting combination, he could cover a lot of his weaknesses, especially with his move pool that was pretty vast. If you wanted to, you could either make him a dual threat, or you can make him just a physical or a special threat, which was really good for 4th gen. That being said, he's S tier, no debate. Piplup. I love Piplup. It was a really cool little Pokemon in the anime, and honestly, I gotta think about it. I mean, I do like the fact that when it becomes Empoleon, it really has a unique typing of being Water Steel. That's a really cool typing. And not to mention, he's a pretty decent Pokemon to have through the games. I'll put him A tier. Or sorry, I'm gonna drop Turtwig down to C. I'm gonna put Piplup in B. He's all right. See, I loved Piplup in the anime, but there were some episodes where I just wanted to punt that little dude because Don. I mean, I love Don's Piplup, but there were times that this thing was so annoying that I wanted to just punt it. But Empoleon being a water steel type, and for the fact that it was a fun Pokemon to have during my runs when I wanted to rerun through Pearl, honestly, I give it he B tier. Now this is where things are gonna get a little different. The Unova games, Snivy, A tier. And I'm only gonna say 2 words for this one: contrary, Leaf Storm. This was nuts, especially for a Pokemon that, in time, became one of my favorites. I like Superior. I like its design, and I like the way that it's been treated with its move pool. And yeah, it was boring whenever it first came out, and it didn't have its hidden ability. But after you realize that it has the ability Contrary, and you can just sit there and spam Leaf Storm, and just things just start falling over dead, it was fun. It was a great little mon to use. I think I might be giving Snivy a little too much credit. I'm gonna put him in B tier with Piplup, because I'm never gonna forgive Ash for losing to a level 5 Snivy in the anime. That was not right. I mean, he did lose his electric type moves due to Zekrom, but even still, even with Plot being against him, that Pikachu should have shredded that Snivy to pieces. Alright, Tepig, S tier. The dude's Mega Evolution is a instant God tier. Because of the fact that with Tepig's new Mega Evolution, it becomes a more solid threat on the hitting side of things. Not to mention, it reinforces the Shogun-esque look of him, or Imperial Guard, I think is what they were going for. So honestly, I enjoy it. I like it. Oshawott, A tier. They gave bro a really decent design. I know for a fact that he has a weird middle stage. And I mean, so does Tepig, and so does Snivy. But whenever he gets to Samurott, I like it. I like the fact that they stayed on 4 legs. There's some people who argue that he should have just been more in his final form. I like it the way it is. And with Hisui and Samurott being a water dark type, and for them to give him, some more stuff in the Legends Arceus games, only reinforces my fact that I like him being in the A tier. He's a cool starter, and he's a really fun inspiration from the anime. So I'll put him here. Alright, Chespin goes... Oh man, this is rough. Chespin's going in B tier. I like Chespin, I like his new Mega Evolution, but I never have any true attachment to it. It's not really a Pokemon that I used in my runs, and I didn't really enjoy it much in the anime. Because, I mean, it caught a decent amount of L's. I mean, Chespin's design is pretty cool. And Chestnut is okay, but I can't forgive them for what they did when they made Quilladin. But that being said, he's going B tier. Fennekin. Now, this right here, A tier. Fennekin is a really interesting Pokemon with a interesting typing of Fire Psychic. That is a brand new typing that was really good when it was introduced. I used Delphox on my first playthrough because I didn't know that Greninja was him yet. Because when the games came out, I was playing through the game and I wanted to use Delphox for the first time. Or sorry, Fennekin for the first time. Because I usually try the Fire Starter before any of the other ones. Because I'm biased. Obviously, look at my outfit. Anyways, I like it, and the fact that it gets some decent special type coverage and was a decent threat on the special side of things, I'll put it in A tier. And also, I really liked Serena and her Fennekin that turned into Braixen in the anime. Now, Froakie, this man going straight to S. Greninja was a great Pokemon, both competitively and in the show, and on top of all of it, they gave him a Mega Evolution as well as Ash Greninja, which was a fun time going through those. Especially when you played the Sun and Moon demo and you got the Ash Greninja for the first time, that was a fun little experience. But after all that, honestly, Froakie don't need no explanation. He goes and he stays in S tier. Roll it. This man going straight to A tier. Grass Ghost typing when he becomes Decidueye, and he's a pretty goofy little guy in the anime. I enjoyed him. I mean, it may not be a whole lot I can say about him, besides the fact that he got a grass fighting type, which is, a nice little thing in Hisui. So yeah, honestly, I think Rowlet will stay in A tier. Litten. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be a rough one. I love Litten. I do, and I used him on my first run through on Sun and Moon, and I even did it on the Ultra Sun and Moon. I want to put him A tier. I love Litten, but I think Incineroar is way overhyped. He was a massive threat in the competitive Pokemon scene, and he has a decent move pool with a whole lot to pull from. But personally, I think he's just way too overhyped. It was a really cool Pokemon, and he had a really cool Z move that's especially tied to him. But I honestly just can't. I can't get on the train of taking Incineroar every single time. Especially because my favorite starter is coming up for these games. And I know that's crazy to say for most people, but I love Popplio. Instant S tier from me. Popplio was a very interesting thing for me, especially whenever it became a water fairy type, which was Azumarill's typing whatever cool. But the fact that it was able to learn a whole lot of coverage, like its special move that it got, I forgot exactly what it's called because it's been years since I've used Popplio. But the fact that it had Ice Beam and Energy Ball and a couple other coverage moves, which was like Moon Blast, honestly, he was a special threat. And I used him in most of the runs that I wanted just to have a challenge. And most of the time in the game, most of the things that I came across just instantly died to this thing. It was over. Alright, now we're on to the Galar games. Grookey. C tier. C tier. I'm sorry. I like Grookey as a design, but what were they thinking when they made Thwackey? And then Rillaboom's a really cool Pokemon, but due to the amount of scarring that I got when I tried to get into competitive Pokemon and getting swept by the instant grassy terrain Rillaboom, yeah, nah, that thing was a demon. And it didn't have any right to be, especially with Grassy Glide being one of those things. I mean, this thing literally was a demon. I just don't have a lot of attachment to Grookey either, so I can't put it high. I just can't. Sobble, A tier. I mean, I love a lot of these starters, and I know that there's not anything in D tier, but that's just how I feel about these Pokemon. I may be a little too biased, and I may have to do a little reconsideration on some of these. But at this moment, I like Sobble. I like his design as a sniper aesthetic whenever it finally gets to its, final evolution in Inteleon. Now, a little straight out of a James Bond thing, but, that's what they were going for. So, honestly, I'm down for it. Not to mention with its Gigantamax. Or sorry, is it Gigantamax? I think it is. With it being up on a sniper's post with a sniper for its special move Snipe Shot, I loved it. Scorbunny, S tier. This thing was my first choice, and it carried a lot of my runs whenever I decided to replay through those games. And with, of course, Pyro Ball having its own little interesting animation, and not to mention it being a strong move for a Pokemon at its level, I love it. I love Scorbunny. And not to mention, Raboot's a pretty cool design middle stage, and on top of it, Cinderace was a very competitively viable Pokemon. I honestly can't think of any reason to put it any lower than S tier. Alright, Quackable. B tier. I like the water fighting type. I like its design as a dancer. But I cannot forgive them for what they did for that secondary evolution. That was despicable. Sprigatito, going in A tier. Flower Trick, always critting, is a instant threat for a lot of these Pokemon. And that is honestly a pretty cool design. The Masquerade type vibe that it gives off from it. Pure Cinema. I love it. I know that a lot of people didn't want it to be a Pokemon that's standing on two legs, but when they saw Meowscarada, I'm pretty sure the goon in everyone just decided to just take over. And they were just like, yeah, we forget about it. And Fuecoco, S tier. Torch Song as Skeledirge, plus the goofiness of previous iteration Totodile. Not to mention, I mean, when you first see this guy, he accidentally burns one of his berries. It's a pretty fun little interaction from the very beginning of the game. And not to mention, he's very strong, becoming a fire ghost type with covers moves like you got Torch Song, Shadow Ball, and I would run Hyper Voice on mine every now and again just to hit multiple targets in double battles, like with that 7 gem. I don't think I ran Hyper Voice there because I think the 7th one was the ghost type dual type, whatever. Anyways, I had a lot of fun using Cielo Dirge in my playthroughs, despite the fact everything that was going on. But yeah, honestly, this is my tier list, and I don't care if anyone else likes it. I don't care if anyone feels a certain type of way about my picks. Honestly, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna put Squirtle down in A tier. I remember there's a lot of things that I didn't like about Blastoise's Mega. Despite the fact that it got a unique ability and had a decent type coverage, I can't forgive them for just doing something that was just like way on the nose. But yeah, this is my tier list. This is how I feel. And honestly, if you disagree, well, I don't care. So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll make more tier lists in the future, and see you later.